Welcome to the Disabled Lifestyle Podcast, helping families with disabled kids overcome adversities and create the life of their dreams. Life doesn't end just because your child is disabled. Now here's your hosts, James and Jessica Pruitt. Hey everybody, this is James. Welcome back to Embracing a Disabled Lifestyle Podcast. This is episode number 2. This is your host, James Pruitt, and my co-host, Jessica.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome back. Glad to see everybody back. I'm really excited to be here today. We have a really great show in store for you today. We've been talking about some of the issues and drilled down just some of those key issues that families face. And I think really one of the first things you've got to start working on is building a support system around yourself and your family of people that can help you with raising your disabled child. You know, there's an old saying that says it takes a village to raise a child. And when you have a disabled child, it really takes a village, because there's a lot of these other things that we're going to talk about that you cannot really do if you don't have a solid support system around you. So, what are some of the places that you would turn to for support?
Well, as everybody knows, the first place that most people turn to is your family for support. Your mom, your dad, grandparents, whoever you tend to be close to, maybe might be one of your close friends. So I would say number one would be family members. But some of us don't have that type of support. In our situation, as James will tell you, we don't have that kind of a support system behind us. So what do you do when you don't have that kind of a support system behind you? And our circumstances are different I'll let James explain it, but why don't you kind of describe the situation, James, of the kind of support system that you feel that we have behind us family-wise?
Well, your mom recently passed away, which we will get into that more at a later time, and I know it's a touchy subject still. But because of that, your dad's not available to really help us out a whole lot. He was spending a lot of time taking care of her, as he should have been, and doing what he needed to do. Your sister was busy helping take care of her, so she hasn't been there to support us. And they were really, until your mom got sick, they were our biggest support system in the family. My family all lives too far away. My dad lives in San Antonio, which is, about an hour's drive away, but he's not here. My brother lives on the other end of the state up in Dallas, or Fort Worth side. So my family is not really there to support us. They support us emotionally, and, they want to help us out, but they're not really here. They don't see what we're going through day to day. And they're not really here for, babysitting or, taking Emily for a couple of hours or doing anything like that. We really don't have that family support for being able to do that. And a lot of the families I've talked to, that's one of the biggest issues. They don't really have somebody that they can trust in their family with their child's complex needs sometimes. Some of these kids, we see a lot of these kids, worse off than Emily even, that have very high care needs. And if you don't have specialized training, you can't take care of these children.
And probably what's going on in that aspect is that some of your family members may feel a little intimidated by all the complex stuff that is going on with your child. I know that it's been voiced in my family, and like James said, she doesn't even have that many compared to what others. But it makes your family members kind of not, they're scared of something happening on their watch, basically. And because they haven't had that type of training that James is talking about. So what do we do, James, when we have I'm not going to say that it has not been hard, because that's also where it also can take a hit on your marriage. But what do you do when you don't have that type of support system? You have to find it from other places. one of the places that we've been known to be able to do it and have a little bit of time is with nursing. And I know being out at this conference is a lot of people did not have nursing, and there were kids that had more complex things going on with their child than we do with ours.
Yeah,
And I was kind of surprised. I'll be honest
Yeah.
with you.
I agree. There's a lot of families that don't realize that they could qualify for nursing care. That's one of the things you need to check with your insurance provider. If you're on Medicaid, check with your Medicaid social workers,
Doctors.
the doctors. They can get you. The doctors have to put in for it, but they can get you at-home nursing care, and that's been one of our biggest lifesavers for us. We had a really great nurse for a couple of years. We had her from like the time Emily was one,
Yes.
up until just last year when she was 3, or just earlier this year. Actually, we just lost her a few months ago. Emily was 3.5 when we lost her. But we still have a nurse. We just have a different nurse now. But we rely on our nurses. They take care of Emily, and once we get to know that nurse and we feel comfortable with the new nurse or with a nurse that's coming into our home, we can actually leave the house for little bits of time. I wouldn't leave for days.
Heck no,
But
not days.
and they can't work 24/7, so you can't leave your child with them for days at a time. But they can take care of your child for a few hours, so you can get out, run errands, spend some time together, do things with your other kids, and they can even travel with you. So if you want to go do something with your child that's disabled, they can go with you, so that they're still there.
And I can tell you it has been a very helpful, even though I have James helping me, it's been very helpful that the nurse has been here. They can actually be a really good support system for you to be able to get some time on your own that you might be desperately needing. And I'm a stay-at-home mom. I do not work. So, and part of that has to do with Emily's disabilities. Sometimes,
Mostly.
yeah, mostly. I have to say that was a decision that me and James both made before she was born, and I think it's probably been one of the most crucial things to help in her development was for me to be able to stay home and develop some kind of a relationship with her. Unfortunately, I'm sometimes the only one that can soothe her when she's not feeling too well. Even the nurse can't get her to calm down.
Well, that's true. But sometimes, it's not just that. You need that break away from her. There's things around the household that need to be taken care of. And we've been there at times when we didn't have a nurse and things didn't get done. Because
and it's been horrible.
there was not enough hours in the day when Emily wasn't in your arms to do some of those things. And with my schedule, it was hard for me to contribute a whole lot to that. But yeah, you need to get some respite here and there somehow. One of the things that we recommend, at least I recommend, and we talked about it a little bit in episode number 1, but it's networking with other families. They're not going to be there so much for, that time and that active support, but you can get a lot of information from other families, especially ones that are a little bit further along on the journey than you are. That's where going to conferences is important. I think it's really, really crucial that you get out of your house, get out of your environment, and get out there meeting families that are dealing with some of the same struggles that you are.
And you've got to remember, it's not only good for you as a couple, but it's also good for your child, because I saw our daughter totally lighten up around people that were like her. And it's funny how you think that it was predisposed in their like Emily, she has a thing about laughing when somebody's coughing. And I'm not just talking about a little cough, I'm talking about a big cough.
Yep.
But then going into the conference and seeing that when somebody coughs, everybody starts laughing.
Yeah.
All these little kids.
All these kids in the room started laughing almost simultaneously. But it was more than that. I watched her with several of the other kids. And, we've always thought, she can't communicate. She cannot verbalize, so she can't communicate. I think they've just developed their own language, because I saw several of these kids. I saw her with, like 2 or 3 of the other kids. And they were talking to each other, and it was like they could understand each other. It was like they were having a conversation. We couldn't understand what they were saying, but they seemed to. And I watched them do this with several of the kids at different times.
James, I experienced the same thing. It was actually a wonderful thing to watch. It was very beautiful, and it can be a very beautiful sight, and it kind of brings a little bit of happiness in you, because one of the saddest things for a mom to go through, I think, is when you glance down at your child and you see that your child is looking at other people, and that they know the difference, that, hey, I can't walk, I can't, do certain things, and you see the sadness in their eyes, and I can't say that I haven't seen that with Emily. There's been a sadness in there that I've noticed when she's looking at TV and she's watching all these little kids walking or crawling. She knows that she can't do that kind of stuff. So I think it's very crucial that you get your child out there to meet people just like her.
Yep. And, we saw that with her at the conference. We met so many great families, and we made so many good friends that understand us, and that are people we talk to on the phone. We chat with them on social media. And we would not have met some of these families if we hadn't gone to the Families for Hope conference last year. And that kind of brings me into the next point I wanted to bring up, is networking with families on social media. You can meet some by going to the Disabled Lifestyle Facebook group, which we'll link to in the show notes, and our page at Disabled Lifestyle and Facebook for our podcast. But finding groups on Facebook is a huge way to get out there and network with other families, ask questions that you have. A lot of the things that I have answered, some of the videos I have on our Facebook page were specifically answering questions that families were asking in some of the Whole Person Assembly groups that I'm a member of.
Yeah, they're very good resources. When you're trying to find an answer to a question, sometimes they're the best ones to go to. And sometimes you may not find it through the group. You may actually find the answers to your questions through your OTs or PTs, speech therapist. Sometimes they've been on the computer more than some of these parents are, and they can answer some of those questions and be a great resource for you and your child. So you always want to keep some kind of a friendship / ongoing conversation with your OTs and PTs, and get involved with what's going on with your child. What are they doing? What are they doing that? What kind of equipment might need in the future? I mean, we're going through the problem of a bath chair at the moment, and they're saying, this certain bath chair, this is what the insurance will cover. And I'm like, our daughter has severe scoliosis, and I don't feel I don't think she's going to like the bath chair, the one. So if it's going to be a little bit more expensive, I say, you know what? Okay, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. We'll get more use. She's tiny, but we're going to get more use out of it. And as long as she's comfortable taking a bath, because she hates baths, she's never been a fan of the water.
That's true. Yeah, she screams her head off when we put her in the bath. But, some of it's just getting out there and finding the people that you have around you. Talk to your doctors. Talk to your therapists. Talk to your care providers. These are all part of your network. They can help you to find resources. One of the biggest areas that besides our nursing we really don't have is respite care. That's something we've been trying to get. Um,
Yes. And some people don't even know where to start with the respite. All I can say is call your insurance company. There's usually some kind of a service coordinator. Sometimes they'll touch base with you once a month. Moms, you should know what I'm talking about. Get with them. I was under the impression you could only get it with MDCP, and maybe in some other states that's true. But here in Texas, they're telling me no, you can get respite care outside of MDCP. So we just really recently looked into it, and they're I really need to actually call back. But they were getting all that information, and they said they were going to get somebody to call me back. Unfortunately, nobody's called me back. So I guess the next thing is, what do you do when somebody says they're going to call you back and you've waited about a week or two? Well, moms, you know what we usually do. We pick up the phone and you pick it up. You keep on calling. Don't just get discouraged. And that's where I'm pretty tenacious at, where I get the answers. Is I just, oh, well, they didn't answer. I left a message. They're not calling me back. No, I get on the phone. I stay on the phone. James will tell you, if I don't get hold of them in an hour or two and they don't call me back, I may be on the phone again, especially if, I've waited a week or two. I'm going to get some kind of a person that's live to help me get the answers that I need, or get to and that's where you need to be very, very focused, moms, is by not just saying, okay, I didn't get anybody, that's it, I'm going to wait. You're not going to get anything done and resolve anything by doing that. I know it's going to feel kind of stupid because you're going to feel like, I've already called them. I've already left messages.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those videos I posted on the Facebook page the other day. I was talking actually about how to deal with being rejected for services. And I was actually answering a question from one of the other moms when I made that video. But it kind of goes along with the same thing, which is don't give up. Keep trying, keep doing it, going until you get some answers, until you find out what's going on.
Exactly.
Don't give up. That's the number one thing on anything with your child. You are your child's strongest advocate. You're the one that's going to have to push the doctors to do the right thing. You're the one that's going to have to push the insurance companies to do the right thing. Because nobody's going to have the best interest of your child more than you. Unless you have, like, a really amazing pediatrician like we do. I think that could be a whole nother show. But we have one of the greatest pediatricians that we could have, because she has been, since even before Emily was born, one of Emily's strongest advocates. But as her parent, or as your child's parent, you are going to be one of their strongest advocates. So that's what you need to do. You need to get out there and advocate for your child.
And that's what you need to remember that you're doing. Remember that you are being the advocate. So you can't afford to feel that way. You can't afford to say, you know what, that's it, I didn't get hold of him. You find the different angles, as James is saying.
And remember, you're not just advocating for your child on some of this. Like with the respite care, you're not just advocating for your child. You're advocating for your entire family. Because you have other commitments, you have other responsibilities besides just caring for this disabled child. You'll need that respite care so you can focus some time on that disabled child, or on other things outside of your disabled child, I should say. You're going to have time to take care of yourself, which is what we're going to talk about in next week's episode, is taking care of yourself. This is why we wanted to put this first, because one of the biggest excuses a lot of families tell me is that they don't have the time. Well, if you get this taken care of, you get some respite care in place, and you get some people in there helping you, then you will have the time to spend some. You may not have unlimited time. You're going to have, a little bit here and there, maybe a couple of hours here and there to do it. And there's a lot of things that have to fit into that limited time. But getting what you can will help you do more things so that you can get more.
Yeah, James, I totally agree with you on the time issue. I have to say that I haven't been very forthcoming with some of my time the way that I really need to. And I think us as parents, we really need to kind of sit down and reevaluate our lives sometimes, because sometimes you might find that you have more time than you really actually thought. So how much is it actually being blown on other things outside the family.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about that in next week's episode. But just getting that time, that's the biggest reason why you need this support system. You've got to have people helping you because you cannot pour your entire life into nothing but taking care of your disabled child. You will, one, you're going to go insane, literally. You will get locked up in a funny farm. You will be insane if you try to do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with zero care, with zero breaks. The human mind cannot do that.
And remember, y'all might think that it's not important to be advocating just for your. You got to remember, you're not just advocating for your child, but you're also maybe advocating for another child out there that's disabled by doing this and by learning this. I mean, I know I've run across several parents who didn't know how to get put on Medicaid. They were too ashamed to even qualify and didn't even know that they could even, with the dad working, that they could have a 19-year-old child be put on Medicaid. And they go into their finances. They went into their retirement to build a totally different room for their child.
Yeah, while you're talking about, we were actually, Emily was in the hospital, and we were staying at the Ronald McDonald House in Austin. And she was in a hospital at Dell Children's Hospital in Austin, which is right next door to the Ronald McDonald House. And we were talking to one of the other families there, and their child was in the hospital there. And they were spending all this money out of pocket to modify their house and to do all this stuff for their child who had been injured.
To go to these doctor's appointments. Everybody, y'all know that. I don't know if y'all are aware, but Medicaid will pay for your trip to and from the doctor's appointments.
Well, that's something that you have to get with your Medicaid because that's going to vary state by state.
That's true.
Here in Texas, they do. If you're here in Texas, Medicaid will actually pay for your doctor's trips. They have their medical transportation.
Even the outside trips that aren't even in the same city. Like, we're going to be taking a trip to Dallas next month, and had it not been for Medicaid paying for it, I don't know how we'd get there.
Yeah, we couldn't afford the trip without Medicaid. When we went to the conference last year, we specifically scheduled a doctor's appointment up there in Dallas where the conference was at the same time so that Medicaid would pay for the trip for us to go up there and back home. And then we had to pay for the hotel stay and some of the other stuff. But Medicaid paid for most of that trip for us. Otherwise, we couldn't have gone.
And that stuff like that is stuff that you're going to want to think about when you do it. I mean, some people don't even think that, hey, you know what? Medicaid would have paid for that if I had gone in and made an appointment around that time. I mean, that may have not crossed some people's minds. You may want to think, you need to think outside the box, and that's one thing that you need to do sometimes.
Yeah. Well, we kind of got off track there a little bit because we were talking about getting respite care and getting support from your friends and family. You're going to need emotional support at the least. And if your family can't give you that, then they're not really a very good family anyway. But, getting people to help you, you need to start thinking about, I can't, and just start asking yourself, well, how can I get this kind of help? Where can I get this kind of help? And just start thinking about it. I mean, even if you're not doing it, just think about where else you could turn to. And don't close your mind to the idea that you can get help. There is help out there. You just have to find it.
And, guys, it's going to be overwhelming. I mean, you're getting hit left and right by a whole bunch of things. And I'm not going to lie to you. It can be very overwhelming. Y'all just have to take a deep breath and attack it from different angles. because James is right. There is help out there. If you can't find the answer through one place, try asking somebody else. I mean, you would be surprised. Ask a total stranger off the top of the street. Well, hey, I've noticed this. Where did you get that from? And I know it can be embarrassing, but you got to remember you're your child's advocate, and if you don't ask, you're not going to get the help that you need for them. So try not to be too embarrassed about going up and just asking strangers off the street, hey, where did you get that? I've been trying to look for one for my daughter or my son. I mean, it can go, like I said, James said, based off of your OT, PTs, and even a total stranger can answer those type of questions. So,
Yep. So keep advocating for your children. Keep getting out there, networking. If you don't have any networks right now, Facebook is a great place to start. There's tons and tons of families and groups out there, depending on what your child's disabilities are. You can find one facing almost every disability. There's also some very general groups for disabled kids and families. But finding support that can help you is one of the most important things that you can do for yourself, for your child, for your family as a whole. And see if you can find some groups if you have other kids. Find some sibling support groups to get your other kids involved with, because they're dealing with a lot too. And they need other people that they can talk to that can help them to deal with some of the emotions and some of the feelings that they have, some of the jealousies that they have because of that. And that's
believe
another
me,
topic.
they are jealous.
Yes, there is a lot of jealousy. There's a lot of issues going on. And we're going to actually talk about that here in a few weeks. Next week, we're going to talk about, more about how to care for yourself. But then in a couple of weeks, then about 3 weeks, I think, we're going to be talking about your family and your other kids and how they're affected by the disabled child and how they can and how they are how they can get some help and some support. So that's one of the things we're going to talk about later on. Right now, we're going to wrap it up for today. Again, just always keep in mind, just because your child is disabled, life does not end. So keep going forward. If you need any help, feel free to get a hold of us. You can contact me, James, at disabledlifestyle.com with any questions or concerns you might have. And we try to answer questions here on the podcast, as well as through our blog articles and Facebook videos. Make sure you go to facebook.com, check out at disabledlifestyle.com, and go to edlpodcast.com/002 for the show notes, as well as the links to some great resources that we've talked about today on the show. Thanks. Y'all have a great day, and we'll see you next time.